Hi, my name's Jen. Welcome to my channel, All My Plants. Today I have a favorites video. I don't think I've done one in a while. I'm not sure. But either way, that's what I have today. In no particular order, but the first one is this Alocasia Frydek. I think this is the newest leaf on this one particular plant. It is growing in a kind of very upright fashion, but the light is literally right there. It sits underneath these lights here that I have respectfully turned off this time. Because I think they were blinding people in other videos. But yeah, I love this plant. I just recently repotted it into this particular planter. It's in Pawn, and it's got a little baby sprouting up, one of the little corms that was in there. I don't know if you can see that little bitty thing down there, but it's so pretty. It's so pretty. This leaf might be going, but it's really pretty. Really, really pretty. It's a nice plant. This is the best I've ever grown a Frydek, and I think that's why I'm so obsessed with it currently. It has had spider mites a couple times. It has. But I nevertheless really like this plant. I think it's done really well, considering. This one here is the one you can probably see the spider mite damage on. I can actually see some webbing on it currently, so I'll have to take it and spray it off. But this is the best time I've ever had growing a Frydek. I got when I first pulled this plant, it was dormant over last winter. So spring or early summer, I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to split up the corms, and I put some in Pawn. These are them, and some in soil. The ones in soil are just no longer with us. I have no idea where they are or what happened to them. I assume I looked at it in the greenhouse at some point, because I think I put it in the greenhouse, and thought it was an empty pot and just pitched it. But it's okay. We still have one surviving here. It's fine. But yeah, this is the best it's ever done. So, I mean, I guess if you're struggling, maybe consider semi-hydro, whether or not it's Pawn or Leca. I would suppose it's up to you. I think I have some other, like Alocasia or elephant ear type plants that are in Leca, and they're doing good in that too. So yeah, maybe consider that. Somebody asked me how I managed to get these leaves big. These are not big. I've seen Frydek that had leaves bigger than my torso, which I did not know was a possibility. But yeah, this is the biggest I've been able to get them. So maybe semi-hydro is the key. Look how pretty that is. Is it just me? That's gorgeous. This is one of the older leaves here. But either way, it's still lovely. I think it's downright seductive. Downright seductive. So yeah, that's the first plant, Alocasia Frydek, or Mycolitziana. I don't know. I have the variegated one too, and I just repotted that, and it's survived. It's doing okay back there. It was looking pretty bad. It was in a glass jar, so I put it in a pot that was actually meant for pond. And here's that. That's the new leaf it's spit out since being repotted. It was doing the grow a leaf, lose a leaf thing, so maybe I've got it straight. I don't know. The next plant is going to be Epipremnum Marble or Variegated, which I just recently put it on this pole. It was on a, there's still some on there actually, just a round DIY pole, the wire. So I'm trying to get it to grab this one now, which it was probably a little bit too tall. I don't have very far to go before it's off the top. But you can see it's giving me slightly smaller growth now than what it was. This is what we were looking at. This is what we are currently looking at. I think there's four. There's four on here. But you know, we'll see who makes it to the top. We'll see. So, and I really like this plant. It's actually been pretty easy. If I'm honest with you, I've let it dry entirely too much. It's, well, not this one in particular, but the one that's on the base of it, on the round pole. I have a really hard time keeping them damp enough to, you know, really benefit from having a moss pole. I find that these plastic back poles are much more conducive to my style of watering. They're much better for the plant. But I love this plant. I love it. It's put up with a lot. It's actually got dirt all over it still from when I stuck it on here, when I repotted it. But it's just, it's a lovely plant. I might not have the best variegation on mine, but I still think it's lovely. Let me see if I can get it closer and show you. It's very lovely. We do have some browning here. That wasn't there until I decided to cut it and try to repot it, or try to pot it. But I do think it's lovely. I really do. I love it. I love it. I think most pothos are just the easiest thing in the world. I think the exception to that would be Epipremnum skeleton key. I don't have the easiest time with that one. I don't know, maybe it needs to be repotted. I've been meaning to put that on a pole forever, so maybe we'll do that soon. We will. Probably. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a favorite. I love it. I'm constantly looking at it. Even the base that I've cut, and it has, you know, small-ish leaves left now. But I just love it. It's an easy plant. It doesn't really give me any hard times. No hard times. So pretty. Simplicity. Sometimes my favorite things are the things that are just not giving me a hassle, like ever. And this is kind of one of those plants. It's never really, I've never been like, oh, what are these spots, you know? And pests haven't really messed with it too much. I'll say maybe some thrips outside, because it does go outside for you know, summer vacation away from Jen to the greenhouse. The greenhouse or the gazebo, either one. But yeah, just to get some fresh air. This Hoya here, this is Hoya Pentaphlebia. That sounds right. And it might be a little grungy. It just came in from outside. It still has a wasp nest on it. And I think it maybe flowered one time. I don't know if I can find a picture. I might be telling you fibs. No, it didn't flower. I am telling you a fib. It did. It started a peduncle and then it just yeeted itself out of existence. So yeah, I've never had this one flower, and I've had this one for a few years now. It didn't really grow too terribly much over the summer, which I think just means it probably needs to be treated for flat mites again. Oh, I see it. This vine broke and one of the leaves is dying off. But anyway, what I love about this one, when it's cleaned up anyway, is these leaves, they just shine like you wouldn't believe. It's like a very waxy type Hoya when it doesn't have hard water spots all over it. I really do like this one quite a bit. I have put it in higher light to see if it sun stresses. It does not. It kind of actually gets kind of pale and washed out looking in higher light, which it did get fairly high light in the greenhouse. But it's just something about those nice round waxy leaves. Just wait till I clean it up. You'll be like, wow, wow. It's really pretty. You want to see my wasp nest? It's my pet wasp nest. I'm trying to find it right there. Maybe you can see it. It's just a little one. I was wondering why there was a wasp flying around in the house yesterday. Just like a paper wasp nest. I'll go ahead and take that off. It's empty now for the year, and it won't be refilling next year now. That was an ongoing thing this summer. I shared the greenhouse with wasps all year. Wasps. I did not say wops. Maybe I did, I don't know. But yeah, they minded their business, I minded my business. I did duck and dodge them quite a bit. I actually have my Hoya Pachyclada out there, and there's like a giant wasp nest up underneath the pot. Still active, so I'm not messing with that just yet. Watering that plant is like playing the game Risk. It's not fun. I make them angry. But anyway, point being, I love this plant. It's just been a very good plant. It was a fast grower at first, and it's been a slower grower, so I think it probably needs to be treated, maybe flat mites. I'm not sure. I'll you know, check it out with the microscope later on and see what's going on there, if anything. It could just be it was on a higher shelf and the things on higher shelves tend to get less water because, you know, water runs down, gravity is a thing. That, and I can't really just easily look up into the pot to see that it's dry. It also needs to be repotted probably. It's been in the same pot for a few years now, and it dries very quickly, I do know that. So, I don't know, but I love it. I love it. I would like to get it growing a little bit more. I think I will probably propagate it because it's on this tiny, tiny trellis back here, which is not the most stable in the pot anymore. But I don't know. This plant, I'm sure it's been on my favorites before at some point throughout the history of this channel because I just love it. I just love it. I'll have to show it again in the future when I've cleaned it up because it shines like a, well, it's waxy and shiny and pretty. Whoops, sorry if I changed the frame. I tripped over the camera on the way by to get this plant. This is one of the Philodendron Florida Beauties, which, that's lovely. That's real pretty. And it actually rooted very enthusiastically into this pole. I don't know if you'll be able to see those roots in there, but they're looking pretty good too. So this is one of them. And I was talking to Miles not too long ago. I don't know if you're watching, Miles, but if you are, this is the one that has been grown mostly indoors. And it has a pretty good balance of variegation. We were talking about, one of his was staying mostly white, I think is what we were saying. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But we were talking about the variegation. Oh, that's dry. And I brought the one that I had out in the greenhouse in, and it does have a lot more yellow or whitish colored. I'll put in some B-roll while I'm sitting here talking, but the variegation is kind of different on that, and I don't know if that's just the genetics of the plant, or because they are from, this plant is from that plant. Your plant is from that plant if you're Miles. But yeah, it's just a little bit different on that one. It was the base that I had kept. So I don't know. I don't know. I actually have a little teeny baby of this one here too that just doesn't grow. I'll show you real quick. That would be this one here that I just grew from a leafless node. And it has had these same two little leaves forever. Oh, I see it's getting ready to spit out a third finally. Finally! Let me get that closer so you can actually see it. This is the little feller right there. It's very pretty. Has nice variegation. Very, very light on that leaf. Very light. And then this is where the new leaf is right here. I don't know if you can see that little teeny bump. Yeah, there we go. Finally, we're gonna get a third leaf, but yeah, you can see the stump down in there. That was the node. I just stuck the node in there and let it eat. It probably needs a repot. That's probably why it's not doing much. But anyway, back on track. This manages to pretty consistently be a plant that I'm staring at all the time. And I love it. I say that about every plant. But I do. I do. It's grown very well. I think this might have been the top cutting. So I'm going to assume it had probably 2 or 3 leaves when I stuck it in here. I just propagated them in water, these ones. So, I mean, it's looking pretty good though, I think. Humble opinion. I like the balance of variegation. This is the newer leaf here, the one that just kind of looks like a green on green variegation. Which it might actually be, I don't know. There is some sort of different shades of green in here along with the like cream or yellow, whatever you'd call that. I don't know. I like the leaf shape. I really like the Floridas. Like, or just this leaf shape in general. Like the model dragon, it has a different kind of leaf shape, but I put it in a similar category in my little pea brain. That's how it works. That bipennifolium, Florida green, Florida beauty, Florida ghost. I really like the unusual leaf shape of those, I guess. So it's a very nice plant though. It's been pretty easy. I have on the other one, I think, gotten some, like one leaf will be all green, one leaf will be all variegated, I believe. I don't know, you've probably seen the B-roll by now. This one here, it's not variegated except on the back. It was basically, I think that's the only kind of all green leaf that this one has given me. I mean, I guess there's a little bit of variegation on there, but for the most part, let me pick it up so you can see. Right down in here, you can kind of see it on the back, maybe, if my lighting is cooperating, or if I actually held that in the right spot. I don't know, the monitor's back here, so. But it's really pretty. It's really pretty. It's a good plant. Okay, next. Enough fawning over the Florida beauty. So pretty. The next plant is the Philodendron Atabapoense, and it's in another room that I have taken over with plants. So I'm going to take you to that because it's just kind of hard to get out, and it's a little cumbersome. I don't want to break any leaves. So we're going to go visit it instead of bringing it to visit us. Philodendron Atabapoense. I really love this plant. I have since it was small. The leaves, they're green, don't get me wrong, but they're not like the grass green, or they're not that green that you see on so many other plants. It's kind of got a little bit of like a dusty blue kind of cast to it. Maybe I'd compare it to kind of like Philodendron bipenifolium, if you're familiar with that at all. It's not like Hastatum, like it's not like silver sword kind of blue, but it's kind of in between. I don't know how to explain it. And then the backs, the color of the leaves on the backs, I really do like that dark kind of purpley red, pinky red, purpley red. I'll go with purpley red. I'll commit. I really like that about this plant. It hasn't been the fastest grower, and I think the whole time I've had it, it really hasn't lost many leaves. It hasn't really grabbed that moss pole. I've got it on one of the round DIY wire poles, which, I mean, it not having grown into it hasn't really hurt it. I keep strapping it on there thinking it'll grab sooner or later. I think mostly, as I say, I'm guilty of letting those poles dry entirely too much. So maybe that's why it's not really grabbed into it. I'm not sure. It hasn't hurt the plant's feelings at all. It probably looks taller than it is. That's only one moss pole. So it's, you know, about 3 foot, 3.5 foot. It's not the full, it's not got an extension. It's sitting on a stool back there. But so yeah, it's been a slower grower. I've had it for a few years and it just kind of chills. I mean, I think all summer it grew 3 or 4 leaves. And one thing I've noticed is when it was more juvenile, the internodal spacing was very compact. As it's gotten larger, like more mature, which is nowhere near, but you know what I mean. As it's maturing, the internodal spacing seems to really be getting larger, which I don't love because it's only one on there. But I suppose if it ever gets to the top, I will, you know, take that and pot it right back in. Maybe we'll get 2 on there. And you won't notice that the internodal spacing is so large. Maybe. I don't know. But it is very pretty. It's very easygoing. I'm sure I've overwatered it. I'm sure I've underwatered it. Like I said, I do just kind of go ham out in the greenhouse, and it's, you know, everybody has to survive. This is how much water they get, whether it's too much, not enough, whether it's wet, dry, whatever. I'm just going in there and hosing everything. So I'm sure it's had a little bit of both over the summer. But it's tolerated it. It has tolerated it. It's tough. I don't think I've ever had any pests on it. I want to say I haven't. Just all around, it's a good plant, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love it. I could just stare at it for days. I do stare at it sometimes for quite a long time. Not quite days, but a questionably large amount of time I'll spend staring at that plant. The next one is this little bitty plant here. I just got it, I want to say sometime this summer, maybe June, July. It says Episcia, Episcia, chocolate soldier. And it was a little 4-leafer. Boy, that's really far away, huh? Let's get that closer. Here we go. Maybe now you can see the little guy or gal. I don't know if that color is coming off quite as wonderfully as I see it. But I've had it sitting here for a couple days in this, waiting to be repotted. It just dries very quickly. It's still in the original soil. And I've gotten to where I kind of hate everyone else's soil. Not really. I'm used to watering the soil mix that I've created. So I kind of know how much water that needs, when to check things. This year I have no idea. I'll water it yesterday, it's dry today. Actually, it's not right now. But anyway, it's been a great little grower. It's starting to send out a little telescopic arm here now. Pardon me, I'm pulling off dried leaves. Missed watering. But yeah, I've just kind of been staring at it because it really is very pretty. I do like a dark foliage. Like, that's nice. That is really nice. I don't know, I hope that color is coming off like I see it. It kind of is it's a green with brown undertones and some pinkiness to it. I don't know, but I do like it a lot. It's got a little nub in there sticking up. Maybe you can see. So I guess that's kind of what they do, is, you know, shoot out, kind of like spider plants, shoot out the arms with the little plantlets on the end. I'm assuming this is going to do something very similar. I could be wrong. I don't know. But I like it. It's definitely got a clumping habit down in here. I think there was only maybe 1 or 2. Now there's like 3 or 4 little ones down there. I don't know. I don't know. Or maybe it's growing from a rhizome beneath. I don't know. But it's very pretty. I do like it. It's actually grown fairly good considering how dry I end up keeping a lot of my plants. And I don't think... This plant is definitely one that kind of dramatically wilts also. So I don't think it's appreciated the underwatering, but it's still actually grown pretty well. Pretty well. I'm impressed. I'm impressed. I really like the color on the undersides of the leaves. So pretty. Oh good, now my husband's gonna mow the grass. Yeah. Perfect. Perfect. I'll try to cut that out. Monstera Aurea. Looking a little ridiculous. It's been kind of smashed up against the wall back here on these shelves behind me. So we know the leaves are turning in weird directions. It's all going to face one way eventually anyway, so it might as well be that way, I guess. But it's putting out a new leaf. The reason I've picked this one up in particular is I really like the balance of variegation on this particular plant. I have some others that don't really have so much going on. Sorry about the crisping, and you'll notice pieces missing. It's inconsistent watering. This one is in like a really, really chunky mix of soil. Either that or every bit of bark that was in this pot ever has come to the top, which is also possible. But yeah, so the crisping, I know a lot of people complain about it with Aureas, and I don't know if it's, for me, I think, humble opinion, that it's inconsistent watering. That's mostly when I seem to notice it. I'll have one it'll be perfect for, you know, 7 or 8 months, and then all of a sudden, I need to water it because it's really dry, and there's crispy bits. So the yellow crisping is what I'm talking about, the bigger sections of yellow, which you can see it's done in the middle of this leaf, that there. Either that or I burnt it. I don't think I burnt this one because it's pretty far away from any grow lights. That is really dry. Really, really dry. I'm probably going to have to repot it just because I'm, like every other day, I feel like I'm watering it. And that's mostly what I notice on the top is just bark. Just bark that I'm throwing on the floor. So maybe we'll actually put some soil on this plant. But it's got a new leaf coming out back here, which looks pretty good. It is harder to see the variegation, so whether or not you'll be able to tell what's going on there, I don't know. But it looks pretty good from what I can tell. Polaroid variegation, I guess they say, which you can see it in person if you're like really squinting at it, but on camera it doesn't necessarily pick up the best. So that, and then there's another one right here behind me. I'll go ahead and show you because we're here. This one I just recently potted up. I think I did it maybe last video before of chores. But it's doing pretty well. This one is in Pawn and Leca. It's got a new leaf coming finally. It was in sphagnum moss, which I left a bunch of it on there. when I potted it up, which probably isn't ideal. But this one also has a pretty nice balance of variegation. Humble opinion. It's very pretty. New leaf coming. No idea what that looks like. I haven't really peeked at it. I know, everybody says don't do it. Sometimes I do it. That one's still kind of tightly wound on the one side, so I'll leave it alone for another day or so. Ma'am. Can you not? So that's what happens to a lot of the plants in here, is this little creature. Lenore! She's the one-eyed wonder. Okay, anyway. Monstera Aurea. It is a really great plant, I promise you, it is. I don't know about all of them, all of mine came from the same plant, and it's been hardy, it propagates fairly easily. I did cut some very large mature cuttings. These are all from those cuttings, all the ones that I still have. And the rooting was a little bit difficult because the stump itself was okay, but the aerial roots, they were old, they had dried. They were trying to be hydrated. They did rot. But the plants that have come from that have been fine. Very, very tough, very hardy. All of them, like I said, came from my same plant. It was not a variegated Monstera when I bought it. It just spit out the tiniest bit of variegation one day. This was years ago. I can't even remember. I'm going to say maybe 6 years ago now. Something like that. And I was like, I cut it back to that point. I let it grow, and it was doing, every other leaf was variegated. And I wasn't upset about that. But I had cut it down. I still have two larger ones. And I just kept cutting. I just kept cutting. So, yeah. I have a lot of Monstera Aurea from, I think I paid maybe $15 for the original Monstera. It was large form Monstera deliciosa. So these do get pretty big too. It takes a couple years, but they get pretty big. I just keep cutting them. It's fine. I'll just cut them down. But yeah, overall, just to say that this is as hardy as any other, or as tough as any other green Monstera deliciosa large form. So, and I want to say in comparison to the, like maybe the Thai constellation, which I have also, I think this grows a little bit faster than that, and it might be slightly easier to propagate. Not sure, not sure. I have two of them, they're in the same pot over there, which we're not talking about those right now. But yeah, the Monstera deliciosa Aurea, large form. It doesn't look like it, but I promise you it is. And the next one, which I think this plant has been kind of back and forth between my most frustrating plant and on my favorites list maybe once or twice. It used to not grow. It's Hoya Finlaysonii, and I swear for a year at least, maybe even 2, it just kind of sat there. And it would try to push out growth. I'll put in a picture here because I realize I'm kind of far away. And it just wouldn't grow. And so I did end up, I sprayed this plant every single day, and I would kind of go through whatever I had handy. So one day it would be Captain Jack's, then the next time it would be like a soap spray, like a insecticidal soap. But either way, I sprayed it every single day. It just kind of lived in the bathroom of shame for a while. Why is it not focusing? Maybe I need to go macro. And this was kind of before everybody was talking about, oh, flat mites, which I never saw any on this plant because, since then I've looked at it several times, never saw any flat mites. But this year it really decided to grow. Like, I've never seen a Finlaysonii leaf that big. I did not know that they got that big. So imagine my surprise when it spit that out. It also flowered this year. Some of these vines are kind of ridiculous. I've just got it looped over itself. because the cat was trying to play with it. This is actually the peduncle that flowered. And the vine was actually quite a bit longer, but I cut it back because it was growing through a moss pole to something else when I brought it in from the greenhouse. So, but it should have really been trellised a few months back. It's got another little peduncle right there. A little bitty one. I don't know if you can see it, but this is ridiculous. We've got 2 feet of space between leaves on this particular vine. So, you know, 6 feet of vine and 4 leaves on it. I'm just gonna cut that back. I'll propagate the leaves. This one here is the one with that giant leaf and the peduncle. I will probably leave that one alone. I'll just get that one trellised maybe, because I don't, you know, if the peduncle has a possibility to flower again. That's another pretty good sized leaf there. Don't you even come over here, little cat. But yeah, so I'm happy with this one. I'm constantly, it's usually in the other room, constantly walking in there and just staring at it because I'm just in awe of the fact that it decided to grow and flower and behave itself. And I will continue to spray it every time I water it. I'm not doing it leave it alone though, baby. Not continuing to do it every day anymore because that was ages ago that I started doing that. And it was growing after all that. I think I did it for more than a month. If there was something on it, I wasn't giving it the chance to complete its life cycle. If something hatched out of an egg somewhere, I was not giving it the chance. That and spraying it every day pretty well ensured that I was getting to places that I hadn't on the previous day that I sprayed it. You know, nooks and crannies and whatever. But yeah, so this plant, it was a pain in my butt for the longest time. But like, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I hope it continues to grow and do well. A lot of my plants, Hoyas in particular, will kind of decline in the winter. And I think it's because outside I am just going willy-nilly with the hose. I really am. I'm saturating everything. Everything is getting watered thoroughly and flushed through regularly. Inside, not so much. I'm walking around going, oh, okay, you're dry. Maybe I should give you a shower. But I don't think, for the most part, outside, a lot of things weren't getting a chance to really be 100%. Oops, battery died. Anyway, all that to say that this plant, it doesn't like to be underwatered, apparently, because it's rewarded me since I've stopped doing that so frequently. Also, pests were definitely an issue. I'm fairly certain, because I mean, it tried to grow, but it just didn't. It just didn't. So, I don't know. It's not like, at the time, I've had it for a few years. At the time, you wouldn't really see many Hoyas around. There was, you know, Carnosa Green, Crimson Princess, and Crimson Queen, but aside from that, I don't think many people were experienced with a lot of different varieties. I'm not going to say no one was, but I don't think it was common to have a bunch of different kinds of Hoyas. So I don't know. There wasn't much information that I could find. I had no awareness of flat mites, I'll put it that way. No awareness whatsoever. Probably until 2 or 3 years later. I'm going to say at least 2 years after I got this plant. So I don't know. I don't know, but I'm constantly staring at it. Like this huge leaf, how could I not stare at that? And I like the green splashing on it. It's like green on green. I don't know if I'm still focusing on that leaf. Maybe if I keep my face out of the way. But yeah, it's really pretty. It's really pretty. That's probably a 7, 8 inch, probably an 8-inch leaf. Maybe a little bit better. I did not know Finlaysonii could put out a leaf that big. So, I mean, it's gorgeous. So I'm just constantly walking around and staring at it and like obsessing over it. Hopefully I can keep it on track. I don't know. I hope. Like, cross your fingers for my Finlaysonii. Philodendron, I don't know why I say things so weird. I went to speech therapy for a good portion of my childhood. Is Philodendron nope. It's Philodendron Giganteum. and it is downstairs in a construction zone because it's large and I had no idea where to put it. If you follow me on maybe Instagram or TikTok, maybe you've seen it already. You got a peek at it, me trying to strap it up so I could get it through the back door. But I've got it in here finally, and it's I don't know where I'd put it in this room. There's not an empty space large enough for it, so it's sitting kind of downstairs in one of the rooms that we're trying to finish, which means I have to shuffle it from one end of the room to the other. But I'll take you down there and show you this plant, and it's definitely one of my favorites. It is, most of what you see is new growth from this year, because last year, I think in November, I had it on a pole, and the pole really wasn't doing much for this plant. The plant is large enough that it just pulls the pole wherever it wants to go. It's just a huge plant. I've had it for, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years. I'm gonna say probably 4, but it started out as a little plant in a 4-inch pot. It really did. But it grows, like when they say gigantic, the gigantic part of Giganteum, they mean it. They mean it. I usually head cut it, and I think I cut it last year, ripped it off the pole, and I might have taken probably 3 leaves and the new growing point, and I just stuck it in a bucket of water, and there it sat until spring. I mean, honestly, it sat there until probably March. From November to March, it just hung out in some water, and occasionally, if I remembered, I'd throw some Super Thrive or some nutrients or something in there when I was topping the water up. And I never changed the water. I never changed the water. So that's terrible. Don't be like me. But all that growth is basically new growth from this year. I've cut off a couple leaves, bringing it in. I cut one off before I got it in the door, and then it had a couple other ones that just looked pretty bad. There are roots everywhere on this thing. It's just, I love this plant. It's massive, and I have no idea where I'm going to put it still, because it can't live in that room forever. Well, I guess maybe it can if I ever finish that room. But for now, that room is also unheated, not cooled. You know, it doesn't have great lighting. It's kind of northeast facing, that window, those windows there. So I don't know. But I love that plant. I love it. I don't know if it's the massiveness of it or what it is, but Philodendron Giganteum. And a grower, it's a great grower. It propagates like nobody's business. I don't really have any pest problems with it other than katydids. If you see tore up holy leaves on it, that's why. Katydids love to munch on it. You know, they just have to take a bite out of every single leaf, apparently, and then they move on. So that's not fun for me. I still think it's beautiful. Holes in the leaves and all. Torn leaves, it doesn't matter. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. I might need to repot it and get it kind of more upright, like my Philodendron Bob C. It's another one that just kind of grows massive. So I kind of need to figure out how to pot it so it's kind of leaning forward more to one side rather than a big sprawl. I'd rather have everything face one direction. It makes it a lot easier in the winter. But in the summer, in the greenhouse, they're getting light from above, or outside, they're getting light from above, so they just kind of rosette. They grow a leaf in every direction. So, yeah, but in the winter, I can kind of, if I can tip them forward and kind of get them convinced to grow in one particular direction, to face one way, all the leaves going one way, all the petioles going one way, it does make life easier. But I love that plant either way, even though it's massive and it's a space destroyer. I love it. And I think that's all I had for you today. I love them all. I love them all. I've just left this one sitting here because if it dangles, the cat will attack it. I have to go put it back in the spare room. It's kind of sitting on a top shelf in there. I say spare room, it's now the second plant room. Last year I didn't have a couch in here to contend with. This year there's a couch in this room, which, you know, takes up 7 foot of wall space down one wall where I would normally put my poles or more plant shelves. But yeah, that's going to do it for me. I think next time I'm looking at some of the easiest plants that I have ever taken care of, or the easiest plants that are currently in my collection. Which probably means the easiest ones that I've ever taken care of, because if they were hard, they wouldn't still be here probably. Honestly. But yeah, thank you for hanging out with me, and come back and check me out again soon. Bye.